Forget perfection, how to make your good idea great. Hello, everyone. Tessa here with the IdeaPros marketing team, and I have Fred Cary, CEO of IdeaPros,
Hey
and
there.
we are talking about perfection. And I think this is one of Fred's, well, I say perfect too much. So if I say it today, just know that um, it's just me. I always say perfect, but Fred's going to talk about why perfectionism really holds us back and is not a good thing.
Yeah, well, there's a couple elements to it. One is perfectionism, but it's really the journey where you have the kind of the embryo of an idea that you want to do something with, and the factors along the way that stop you from doing anything about it. Trying to be perfect is the kind of the second step in that process.
Gotcha. Well, and you have some stories that are going to go along with what we're talking about today. So I don't know what order you want to go in, Fred, today.
Well, and that's good because that means they're going to keep you guessing. So,
Always,
so
always.
yeah, so I like that. Well, look, first of all, welcome everybody. Thanks for showing up. We also put a link on my Instagram so that if people are coming over from there, we appreciate you. You'd probably be coming in through YouTube. So Tessa, keep an eye out.
I am. And let us know. Just say hi over in the chat, hashtag live if you're with us live, and hashtag replay if you're catching the replay, so we know where you are.
Yeah, good. And I'm live. So
So
you mark me down for being live.
got it.
So
Fred live. Good.
thank you. So look, I think one thing we all have in common, regardless of whether we're building a company, building a product, have an app idea, whatever it is, the thing that we all have in common is we all have ideas. Every single one of us. I think it's going to be hard pressed to find somebody that has never woken up in the middle of the night or gotten up first thing in the morning and thought, why doesn't this exist? Why can't I do this? We all have that. Most of us eat our breakfast and go off to work and don't think about it again. Some of us get woken up night after night thinking about this thing and why we haven't done it yet. And that could go on for a month, 6 months, a year, 10 years. It can go on for a long period of time. I'm talking to some guys right now that have been thinking about something for about 20 years, but the technology didn't exist when they had their idea. And now it looks like it could be possible. So now they're still there 2 decades later talking about this idea that they had 20 years ago. So what we do is when we take that idea and take it out of our brain and start putting it down on a notepad, the first thing that we do is we get overwhelmed because of all the different pieces that need to start going into play when you take that idea from your brain to your pencil. And that's kind of the paralysis. We talked about that last week. We talked about that performance anxiety that keeps people from moving in the first place, the self-doubt, the doubt whether or not this idea is good enough, looking at your pregnant thought and thinking about it as a finished product. I mean, there's a long journey between pregnant thought and finished product, but that stops us. It stops a lot of us because we just can't visualize all of the elements that we need to put into play in order to take this idea and turn it into a product. So that's really the first stopping point for us, is we get caught up in the excuse me, in the minutia of being able to figure out all these little bullet points of how to take this idea and start turning it into a reality. And so most of us, right, we got the whole population of the entire world who has ideas, and we got this much of the entire world, where am I? There. Yeah, this much of the entire world that takes that and thinks about it over and over again. And now we're going to be down to this much of the world that is actually going through that first thought process of taking it from an idea to trying to pencil it out. But that still remains, even at this level, when we only have this much of the world left, there's a whole bunch of us that don't go any further than first starting to jot it down, because it really becomes overwhelming at that point. So I call it the first point of failure, the first point of paralysis, because we're trying to get something too far along in our thinking process without realizing it's a step-by-step methodical approach that can take a long time.
Absolutely. I love that. And you actually said what I was going to make you say. And that's that there is a methodology to it. And, when you first look at starting a business, just even the business part alone, not even creating a product or an app and all the steps that go into that, just having your own business has so many steps. So I think the best part about working with IdeaPros is that it is all outlined. We know the strategic route that you should be taking, what you need to do first in order to get there. But that beside the point, because I know this isn't just about IdeaPros. I know you have some suggestions for people when they are going through the paralysis. The last show that we had some ideas on how to get past that too. But when you're in that situation and you're overwhelmed, I mean, what's the next step for you when you're facing that paralysis?
To back off, to realize that you're not going to have all the answers, and the answers that you do have are very likely to be wrong. We did a show probably a year ago, and I think the title was "What Do Millionaires and Bad Ideas Have in Common?"
I love that one.
Right, what they have in common is that most of the time you start with a bad idea. In fact, the post this morning I did on Instagram talked about the fact you're worried about your idea is not good enough. It's not. There's no idea that you wake up in the morning and everything's perfect. You've got it all figured out. You've got a complete competitive analysis in your brain. You understand the market size. You understand the market opportunity. You understand who your future customers are. And you know exactly how you're going to convince them to take your product, to take your idea that you just thought about and make you a multimillionaire, because everybody's going to be swarming towards it. Nobody has that when they first come out. Even Tesla, when he first started really practically putting some meat on the bones of Tesla, it still took him another 5 years before the first product was out. And he was thinking about it for a long time before when he started getting ready to turn that into production. Of course, that's a massive undertaking with vehicles. And so that could be not the best example, but I'll give you another one as we go through this process. So what I tell people is just start sketching things out. And to your point, Tessa, even incorporating, forget about the damn idea. Think, where am I going to incorporate? Am I going to have any partners? How much money am I going to need up front? Do I need an accountant? Just the mechanical parts of taking an idea and turning it into a company. Even those things are a nuisance at the least, and trying at hardest. So what I tell everybody is to start get out a little pad and start compartmentalizing these things. This is my idea. This is the problem it solves. This is the audience that needs that problem solved. This is how they're solving the problem now, and this is why I'm doing it better. Start thinking about all those things and putting them down in bullet points even. You don't have to go through this big analysis at first point, but you really need to understand who wants this. Your mom's going to tell you it's a great idea, son or daughter, but she's not going to buy it because you're going to give it to her, whatever you're making, for free. Everybody else in the world, that's the audience. And if you don't have a real strong grip on what their problem is and why your great idea solves that problem, then you're going to be misaligned and you're never going to get to where you want to go. So simplify. Don't think about controlling the universe. Think about, how do I get my first customer? Why do they want me? Why is what I have better than what they're doing right now? If you can't answer that, then go back to bed and then we'll think of another idea tomorrow. But if you can't answer that, that's how you start going. Start compartmentalizing in very black and white fashion what it is you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it.
Right. And we have a one-page business plan that has all those concepts on it. It's very, very simple. So you don't have to get overwhelmed with, planning everything out. It's just a few main points, the ones that Fred mentioned, that are on there. So I will link that in this post when we're done. So that you guys have that handy.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You can find that. And by the way, you may not be ready for even that when you're first taking that idea and writing it down. But that certainly would be the next step you should think about. And literally, I don't know how many of you have written 60, 70-page business plans. God knows I wrote tons of them, especially earlier in my career, because that was, if you didn't have that, you wouldn't get any audience with anybody. But one thing in common with every business plan I've ever seen, they're full of crap.
There's a
And
lot
they
of
are,
fluff in there.
I mean, no, they're asking you to come up with 5-year projections and, exactly what you're going to need for this extended period of time. And you haven't even sold your first widget yet. So you don't really know. But this one pager that Tessa's going to put on here afterwards, so come back and grab it if you don't have it already, really lays down all those fundamental aspects of what it is that you need to know, and what problems you need to solve before you can start making things a reality.
And I can make this even easier. Put one page in the chat and I will make sure that you get a copy of that. And no email necessary. I will send it to you on Facebook. We just want to add tremendous value.
Yeah, or even some value. So I'm not, see, you're worried about perfection. I'm worried about good. So if we're creating some value, we're doing a good job. Right. So look, the second place that we run into problems is now that we've done all this stuff that I'm talking about, we got our bullet points, we're ready to start doing something with our product idea. And it's the perfection part of it. We want everything to be perfect now before we launch. Now we've gotten to the point of being overwhelmed to the point of wanting too much. And this is something that is a real paralysis. In fact, even in our company, when we have so many partners, I have to really push a lot of people to want less. And working with me, sometimes I refer to it as free ice cream. Everybody wants as many scoops as they can have, without recognizing the fact that you got to start out with one scoop. What is it that you're going to do? Find a way to go out and do it and prove up your model by getting some people. Everybody's worrying about their first $1 million. I'm worried about that first dollar. Who is going to pay me money for my idea? And so narrow things down, strip things away, get down to the core basics of what you need to do, and get out there and do it. There's plenty of examples of companies that went out and didn't have their perfect or really, really good idea completely fleshed out when they went there. One is a company called Backrub. Backrub started out by a couple of Princeton guys, I think they were, started out by creating backlinks, and not creating backlinks, but searching backlinks and figuring out what were the most important things that people wanted to search for on the internet, and then they would scale the results based upon the backlinks. Hence, Backrub was their stupid name they came up with in the beginning. Marginal revenue, they worked at it for maybe 5 years or so, starting to try to change their philosophy, change their strategies based on the feedback they were getting. They actually went, I don't know if you guys, anybody's old enough to remember Excite. Excite became a public company. It was a search engine. It was the search engine used by AOL, which was the giant back in the time. And these guys approached approached Excite and several other search engines, and they wanted to be bought for $1 million and a little bit of salary so that they could help develop their product. They were turned down by everybody. They went back to the drawing board. They redid the way that they did things. They refocused and found out the real way that they should go scrape the internet to provide results. And I think 6 or 7 years later, they IPO'd at $54 billion, and their name became Google. So the biggest of the big could have been bought for $1 million and were turned down. And they used their focus and what they learned to change and to be better. I wouldn't argue that they're perfect, but they're pretty damn close comparatively. But they learned over time through their customer feedback, through all the trials and tribulations and heartaches that they went through, and started positioning themselves in a place where their okay idea became a $1 trillion great idea.
I love that. Did you guys know that that was Google he was talking about? I don't know if you knew that in the chat. I didn't realize that in the middle of the story with Excite, but that totally makes sense. It all falls into place now in my head. But they put up a website. They were getting in front of their audience. I know you tell us this all the time, that you have to know what your audience wants, what the problem is that you're solving, so that you can create that product, and you're not just creating what you want or your mom wants, for that matter.
Right. Yeah. And to any of our partners who happen to be listening and maybe get pissed off at me for wanting to do less, I want you to do less a lot of times, to get out there and to start testing that market and seeing what the market really wants, not what you think they want. And in many cases, especially as, it's like having a kid. And any of you parents know that when your kid becomes like 15, 16, you start becoming really stupid. And 18, 19, you're dumb, you don't know anything. And by the time your kid hits the mid-20s or later or earlier, if you're really lucky, all of a sudden you're smart again, because they're starting to realize through their own trials and tribulations that the things you were talking about, the things you were warning them about, wasn't because you were trying to be an awful parent, is because you went through the same stuff yourself. And I can tell you guys, I've gone through a lot of stuff in my almost 40-year career here. No, not almost, my 40-year career. And the reality is, you never know what's going to work. You may know you have a good idea. You may need to flesh it out, but you got to get it into the marketplace to figure out what's not working with it, what you need to change about it, and in some cases, what drastic pivot you need to do. I talked about my company BoxLot before. During the .com era, we were always one step behind eBay, having much better auctions, legitimate auctions. We had one stamp we sold for $2 million on there, where eBay was selling trinkets, but they kept monetizing way better than we did. They cornered the whole marketplace. And after about a year or so, I was ready to fold up and give up shop. But during that time, and those of you who heard this story, I apologize, but it's really relevant to what we're talking about. During that time, I realized that we had this underlying technology that was something that everybody needed. And so we switched our focus from trying to do auctions to try to create an infrastructure that created a better marketplace on the internet. And that company, within 6-7 months after that, we got an offer for $125 million for BoxLot, because we shifted. So don't think that you're going to wake up in the morning and have this good idea that's going to be great, that's going to be perfect. You're going to be nowhere near that. And unless you have an open mind, unless you can let that water flow over you and learn from it, then you're never going to turn that initial idea into something that's really good, because you're going to be too rigid. You're going to be too myopically focused. No, this was my idea. This is what I thought about. This is what needs to happen. You're going to be so rigid that you're never going to get to where Tesla got, to where Google got, and in a tiny little way to the way even BoxLot got.
Oh, I love it. Well, you have lots of comments coming in, so I just want to put a few on the screen for you. I know Vanessa says she really feels like you help us to not waste money and time with research and things like that by keeping it myopically focused. So I love that. And Stephanie says, great message. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say, but I have a couple more. Okay, cool. So I get to keep going.
Yeah, it says, to my point, always listen to your audience.
There you go. But I know Paul Booth is saying brainstorm constantly. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of get some ideas from Fred on is how do we take action? I think brainstorming constantly is a good one. But how do you take action when that perfectionism starts to come in? I mean, is it about having the right people around you so that you can brainstorm? What kind of ideas do you have on that?
Well, first of all, you start out by recognizing that none of us is perfect. No idea is perfect. No idea will ever be perfect. And you got to shift. In fact, they say that perfect is the enemy of good. And the reality is, when you try to get to perfection, you're going to have this inertia that prevents you from moving to where you need to go. So the very first thing you need to do is, again, take things and compartmentalize them and do every step of the process like I just outlined. Again, let me do it again. You have a really good idea, you wake up in the middle of the night, write it down and go back to sleep. And then when you're up and focused and you have time, start getting on Google, the former back rub, and finding out, why do I have this idea? Who needs it? What problem am I solving? That's the first thing that people need to think about that we don't often think about. We just think, wow, that's a great idea. I just invented a square tire. Well, that's not a great idea because you can't drive on a square tire, right? So what am I solving a problem? If I'm not solving a problem, then I don't have a really good idea. I thought it was in my dream, but turns out I've got something that nobody needs. It's not a problem. If I can't identify a problem that I'm solving, a big problem that I'm solving, then I really don't have a good idea. If I can, then I need to take those next steps, and to Tessa's point about the one-page business plan, that's the second thing. The first thing, all the bullet points, what is this market? What is that customer need? Why isn't it being met well right now? Who's out there trying to meet that need? Because if you don't have any competitors in that thing that you're imagining, then you probably got a shitty idea and you need to go back to bed. Because if you don't have any competitors, that means there's no market demand, right? I only saw one case where there was no real market demand, and this guy created a market demand from something that nobody would ever thought, wow, I'd love to have one of these. But his idea was brilliant. I didn't end up working with the guy because his expectations were out of line, but a really good idea that didn't really have any market need, but could have one, which, by the way, everybody probably wants to know what it is. This guy invented an indoor, for corporate buildings, an indoor flagpole that actually could have the flags waving inside by using these fans that he had in the pole itself. And I thought, well, number one, that's an idea that nobody wants. But number two, anybody that saw that inside a building would go, how the hell was that happening? So that's the one exception. Other than that, if you don't have any competitors, if you can't identify this market demand, the problem that you're solving, then you don't have a good idea. So that's why it's so critically important to figure all those things out right in the very beginning. What's the problem? How's it being solved by competitors? Why is my solution better? Start there. And once you got that, then you can start compartmentalizing. What do I need to do? What do I need to build? What are people paying now to solve that issue? What am I going to have to charge? Will they pay that extra amount of money if they have to? What are my benefits? How long are those benefits? Another example, we have a product that we're releasing. We have two partners working together with a problem that's being solved from all of the cardboard boxes that we all get from Amazon. And it's a problem that is a big one, I know, because I have that every single day here. I'm piled up. My maid and I can't crush down enough boxes. And this is actually an incredible shredder that will shred cardboard, not only shred cardboard, but with what comes out of it, it will take it and it will you can use the remnants for packing materials. So for small businesses, for homes that do a lot of at-home purchases, it's going to be a really, really big solution. We pivoted that thing for close to 3 years. Mm-hmm. We started out going down the path of providing 3 tins that we could solve all the we crushed everything by about 85% and separated it. And we had plastics, we had metals, we had waste, and all separate compartments. It was awesome, but then all the rules changed, and China stopped buying our trash, and everybody started putting everything all together. And so what we had didn't turn out to be a good idea. And so we migrated to have that same solution for yachts, and creating a really expensive version that could go into yachts. Because when you're out for a week or 2 weeks, you have a limited amount of space for your refuge, and that was a good solution for that. But then the yacht market started getting soft, and then we saw this problem with cardboard, and it's a big, huge problem, and nobody was addressing it. And now here we are, ready to launch, got an incredible machine, and it's a big, rounded journey from where we started. So always be willing to have an open mind and to go where that river takes you, because you end up down the path you started, you're going to have a great product that nobody wants. So figure out what the demand is, be willing to migrate your thinking to address the demand in the way that makes sense, and then get up and get to market with version 1, not version 10.
Absolutely. Well, and we do have some courses that Fred came out with recently that help you to kind of keep your mind in the right place, focus, get through the different steps. And so we are going to put a link in the chat for you guys to be able to go to the courses, right, Fred? I mean, webinar and courses.
Yeah, well, we have a free webinar, and then we have a paid for courses, but I think the courses are what, like $300 or something.
Yes.
So I think they're certainly worth it, but really can affect the way that you think about things, which I think is invaluable, because the start of everything, you can't, my argument is you can't have a great company without being a great leader, and you can't become a great leader without being a really good person to start out. So, you know, what you do at home, how you treat your husband, your wife, your kid, your dog, how you treat the neighbors, the community, what you're trying to do to make the world a little bit better, whether it's around your block or literally around the world. If you don't start there, fixing the human, then the business that you create from a faulty human is going to be a faulty business. So I think those courses are really valuable. Let's see what our audience says, and I'll migrate them if I have to.
We'll share it with you guys, but we're here every Friday at noon Pacific time, helping you guys with entrepreneurial topics. So if you are just trying to get more clarity, you can always check out our blog, IdeaPros.com/blog. And we go through all of the different aspects of building your business. So we try to make it as efficient of a way for you to tackle all these things that you're going to do for your business and the product launch or app launch for that matter.
You even have it broken out by category, yes. Right? You have an index. Yeah.
And we also have collected our best shows, or what we think is the most relevant for your journey, on our resources page. So we have IdeaPros.com/resources. So you guys can, I mean, we just love you all of our entrepreneurs. That's, you know, obviously what Fred is very passionate about, purpose-driven entrepreneurs. And I've been doing this. I've been an entrepreneur all my life.
Since you were 2.
Pretty much 4. I started programming at 4. But guys, I'm going to let Fred go. Thank you so much, Fred, for being here and sharing your wisdom with us. Oh, I do want to say that Martin says he's light years ahead of where he would have been because of Fred and the team at IdeaPros. We appreciate that. And Odin says it was another perfect session. Thanks for that, Odin. Gloria says
perfect.
Yes, imperfect. And it's important to be patient. I know, Gloria, I saw that message and I was going to put it up there for you. So we'll let you go, Fred, and I'm going to make sure that everyone hits the bell to get a reminder. So at the corner of Facebook and on YouTube, you can click the bell to get reminders when we go live. Every Friday, we have this session. If you have topics that you want us to cover, please let me know in the chat. And we are happy to. Hey, Constance, nice to have you. Bidet Bar over there on YouTube. We love having you guys here with us. Stephanie, Martin, good to see you. Daryl, great to have you on. And I know Odin, my coach, my marketing coach for a long time there, long-time coach for me. Vanessa, I know we have Paul, good to see you. And Bobby, I guess I know we have a lot of people I haven't seen on the chat today, and I don't know who TFS is, but I'm getting you the one page. You may have heard earlier in the show. I'm not sure if you just joined, but we do have a one-page business plan. We had a whole show about the death of the business plan and how this short version can really cut down what you're trying to solve, or all of the information you're trying to gather in the typical business plan. So definitely check that out. It's a good way to kind of consolidate your thoughts really quickly. All you have to do is type one page in the chat and I will send it to you directly. You don't even have to give me your email or anything. I will give you the business plan and you can actually edit that. It's a PDF. You download it to your computer, fill it in, and then you have this awesome document. And oh, thanks, Sean. I love having a positive mindset. I know you guys are all, our followers are extremely positive, like Sean. He's amazing. And Vanessa over at Zwizzy, great to have you here. I loved having, oh, thanks. Excellent content. Appreciate it. Oh, Katie, good to see you. We'll see you guys in a week next Friday at noon Pacific time. Have a good one, guys.